Welcome back. You're watching the 18 Money Show, and let's move on and let's talk about making a will. Not so long ago, writing a will was considered to be something that old age people do while on their deathbed, but things are now changing thick and fast, and more Indians, especially younger folks, are now taking writing a will seriously. So, on the Money Show today, we will decide what exactly is a will, why it's important for you to write one, and the importance of a smooth execution of the will. Let's discuss all of this with our guest today, Anand Ladha, founder, Invest Arch for Kal. Anand, good evening. Welcome to the show. So, it's highly recommended to write a will as soon as you can. But tell me exactly, how should one write a will? Because, when we think about a will, we really imagine having a lot of assets, a lot of properties, which includes real estate under our name. What exactly goes in a will, and how can one go about it, especially legalizing your will?
Firstly, hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Before going on to the pointers which we should keep in mind while framing a will, uh, right now we have an illusion that a lot of people have already written a will. But Press Trust of India recent data suggests that only 15% of Indians have proper succession plan in place. Plus, if we even check out data, we find that almost 66% of the civil cases which are pending in court are pertaining to land and property. And next 10% cases are because of family matters. Both these combined makes it more than 75% of the civil cases are majorly because one or the more reason is that we have not properly planned our estate and probably we don't have a will in place. See, if we die intestate, firstly, we have to accept that we all are going to die someday or the other. So it is always better to have a will in place. If we die intestate, the law is very complicated and very elongated. That is why usually we see a lot of cases going on for civil matters and family matters because law in itself is very complex. So that is why firstly we need to understand that as soon as you become attain an age of 21, you should think of writing a will. Probably in the next 1 or 2 years, you should frame a basic will and write it up. What is a will? It is a document which suggests that what is your last wish? How do you want to allocate your assets? Since writing a will is comparatively a complex matter, it is always suggested, especially if you know that there might be some issues in your family, it is always suggested to consult a lawyer and make sure that you have a proper registered will. Along with that, you are making sure that it has technical language in place. If you think that your family is sorted and you don't have any issues, you can probably write a will on a simple paper. Will is simply what is your will? What do you want to do? What do you want your how do you want your assets to be allocated? That is a will. You can simply write it on a piece of paper and that will be treated as a will. But if you think that even there is 1% chance that there might be some issues in your family, it is always better to consult a lawyer and draft it formally and get it registered as well.
Interesting. So I think you've answered most of my questions in this particular answer of yours. But then tell me one thing. At the age of 21, one should really consider making a will. That's what you also suggested, recommended. But then you know how the understanding of investment and investment planning goes in the country. You know, people not before 40 or 50 think about a will, and a lot of time people really don't have. Maximum amount of time, you know, people don't even have a will. Now, talking about smooth execution of the will and nominating people as to who will get what. These are the things which are very important for an individual to understand. How can one decide all this?
Firstly, I am suggesting to write a will at an age of 21 because you become authorized to write will at an age of 21. And I am very sure even if I try and suggest anyone whose age is 21 to 25 to write a will, he won't write it. But at least if we are suggesting to write at 21, he'll have it at the back of the mind that eventually maybe by the time he's 30 and he's earning something and earning a good amount and has some estate in place, he makes sure that he's willing to write a will. So it is just a mental thing which I'm trying to play out here. I know that none of the guys who are in the age of 21 to 25 will write a will, but you should eventually start thinking of it. And once you turn 30 plus, you should at least jot it down on a piece of paper and keep it in a safe. Even if you are not registering it, it's absolutely okay. What you should take care of, firstly, you should take care of all the liabilities and all the assets. You should jot down that what all assets you have, what all liabilities you have, and who do you want to inherit that assets? See, when we are alive, our purpose is that we want to earn for our family, for our maybe for our parents, for our wife, and for our kids. But once we die, we might have a wish that we have too much with ourselves. We want to donate something also, or we want to use XYZ amount for particular purpose. So this is what you need to justify in your will. You need to first justify how many assets you have. Then you have to see that what are liabilities you have. Then you have to make sure that firstly, whoever is inheriting your amount is firstly paying off the liabilities so that your family is not suffering. Then you will get a final sum of money which you will have, or the sum of property or assets which you will have, and then you can allocate each and every asset to a person or to a wish which you want to fulfill.
All right, I think that's a lot that we discussed about a will, but then we will also consider discussing all the more factors that goes into making a will. In the meantime, we have a couple of queries that you also need to answer, Anant, of our viewers. And the first question is coming from Naeem, and the kind of funds he has in the portfolio are Nifty 50 Index Fund, UTI Flexi Cap, HDFC Balance Advantage Fund, ICICI Equity and Debt Fund, SBI Small Cap. Total SIP amount that he's written is almost 20,000. We don't have a lot of details about what's the purpose of this portfolio in terms of goals. How is the fund mix so far? And for 20,000, do we really need 5 funds?
See, firstly, if I talk about the fund selection or the fund diversification, it is quite interesting, and it is very evident that this investor is a seasoned investor and is investing from from maybe quite some time, maybe for 3 years or 5 years he has been investing. That is why his fund selection is okayish. My personal view is I have two opinion. Although I don't know his goals and for what for he is planning for. So first we need to make sure that he is doing a proper goal planning and he is doing a proper risk assessment before deciding on to anything. But keeping limited information in mind, I just have 2 points. Firstly, balanced advantage funds of lately have become too fancy, and a lot of fund houses promoted, and they have gained large amount of corpus, and it is really difficult to compare it with an index. So my personal opinion is to keep debt and equity separate. Whatever amount you want to invest in debt, you can choose a accrual based debt fund, versus whatever amount you want to allocate in equity, you can allocate in large cap, mid cap, small cap according to your risk appetite. This is the first point. And second point is he is not having anything in emergency fund, plus he is not having anything in liquid or debt fund. So make sure that you have some amount of FDs or PFs or something in debt, which is taking care of debt allocation. Otherwise, overall fund selection is comfortable.
We don't have him on phone, so I can't ask more questions on behalf. But Naeem, if at all you get to view this query of yours, the solution has been given. If you want to ask more queries, you can WhatsApp it again to us. The next question is from Yadvendra Ankit Singh, and he says that he has a small portfolio of SIPs, and he has Kotak Flexi Cap, completed 68 months in it. Then he has Nippon India Small Cap, and Axis Focused also, and Kotak Small Cap, and he's got Axis Multi Cap, PGI Mid Cap. He's got a portfolio only of Mid Cap and Small Cap. Super aggressive, Anant. I think you will like it, but I want to know what are you going to suggest. So he's 37 years old, and he wants to add 5,000 more. So let's consolidate this portfolio. It's too aggressive, Anant.
Firstly, there is no debt in the portfolio. So I am assuming that this person is taking care of debt allocation properly, because even for an aggressive investor, asset allocation into debt, equity and gold is somewhat like 70% in equity, 26% in debt, and remaining 5% in gold. So at least 25% amount you should always have in debt. I know that of lately in last 1 year, debt market has underperformed because of rising interest rate. But believe me, debt will give cushioning to your portfolio and some peace of mind to you whenever there is any fall or correction in equity. Plus, whenever there is genuine opportunity in market because of correction or crash or whatever reason, at least you will want some amount in debt so that you can utilize that opportunity and shift that amount from debt to equity. So first important point is we need to take care of debt allocation. I myself am a very aggressive investor, but I always make sure that at least 30 to 35% of my total portfolio is in debt. So it will give me at least some sense of security that my at least important goals are taken care of because of that debt allocation. Second, as you rightly mentioned, that we don't have any index fund or flexi cap fund, so probably we can reduce some exposure in mid cap or maybe small cap if that is okay with the investor, and allocate this new amount of money which we are trying to plan along with some of the amount which we are already allocating to mid cap and small cap to flexi cap kind of fund. I know if I ask this investor to invest everything in large cap or maybe index fund, he might it might not excite him, or it might not suffice his purpose, because looking at his goals, it feels that he's an aggressive investor. So he can probably choose a flexi cap fund and add it to his portfolio.
All right, we move on to our next question, which is from Ravi. And Ravi says that he's been holding small cap and mid cap funds in his portfolio, but given the volatility in mid cap and small cap segments in the last 1 year, he wants to understand if he can add a large cap also. So he wants to know if Nippon India Large Cap Fund could be the one which he can add in the portfolio. If not, then which one?
See, adding a large cap fund to a portfolio is always good for stability. But if we are just adding because of lately large caps have outperformed mid cap or small cap, that is not a right reasoning. Last 1 year, I know that mid cap has underperformed, but if you check out the cycle of mid cap and small cap in last 10 years, you will find that 2 or 3 years mid cap and small cap underperform, and then suddenly comes a year where they give super performance and everything averages out. So you need to take care that whenever you're investing in small cap, mid cap, at least you need to have 5 to 7 years of time horizon in mind. And instead of adding a Nippon large cap fund, it is a good fund, but now size of fund has increased a lot. So probably we can even choose some index fund, or index fund, I think, will suffice our purpose. If we want a bit of aggression, we can choose Nifty 50 equal weight index fund. So what will happen in that fund is all the 50 stocks will get equal weight, and even comparatively companies which are having very small weight in index will get good weight in your portfolio.
Now, talking about mid cap and small cap, now the current AMFI number shows that there has been an increased inflow in this category. You think that this is going to stay for a longer time, this momentum?
I think yes, because of you guys. I think a lot of people are now spreading proper education and making sure that there is a goal mapping which is happening with each and every investment which every investor is making. Plus, they are making sure that their mindset is clear. That if you're investing in equities or maybe in mutual funds, you have at least 5 to 7 years in place. And if we have that time horizon in place and looking at where we are in economic front, considering India as a place, I think every investor might have a very good experience 5 years or 7 years down the line, provided he stick to that goal. And sticking to that goal and maintaining that emotional quotient, I think people like you and shows like this is playing a very important role.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anant. With that, it's a wrap on the show. Thank you so much for being on the show and explaining all the things related to personal finance and answering our viewers' queries. And